I'm going to go ahead and start with the same question that I always ask everybody who comes on the Contraband Wagon. What is your evolution of race consciousness? In other words, when did you first gain an understanding that there was this thing of a racial hierarchy and that it was related to these colors, white and black, connected to skin color, and that it could have influence on your experiences in your life or your outcomes in your life, and that different people are experiencing different things on the basis of that hierarchy? And how did your understanding of all that change over the course of your life?
Will, that is an excellent question. And, when you and I had that pre-call last week, I actually spent the following week thinking about it. And, it's an unfolding, it's an evolution, as far as my experience with race consciousness. As a 5, 6, 7 year old in elementary school, I grew up in pre-gentrification, Brooklyn, New York, Clinton Hill. And my earliest memories around the issue of race were what we learned about Dr. Martin Luther King in school. I don't remember hearing about slavery back then, but it was like, black people and white people were segregated. And, Martin Luther King came along and he fixed it, and now everything is back to normal, and we're lucky to be alive now, right? That was kind of that first taste, when I was in elementary school. But then I get a little older and I go to junior high school, and my mom, in her wisdom, she sent me to another school that was more racially diverse, predominantly white, but a heavy Asian American population, heavy white population in South Brooklyn. So she sent me to Dyker Heights. If you remember that show, Everybody Hates Chris, that was like me. I had to travel across Brooklyn to a predominantly white setting and a very ethnic and multicultural setting for junior high school. And, I had a crew of guys back then. We were like the United Nations. It was myself. It was my friend Eric Raymond, who was like a, heavy metal white boy rocker dude. That was my ace. And then there was Chung Fei, whose family was from Asia, and he was my ace. And then there was my other homie, Stephen Maurice from Haiti. And we were a crew, and we were all from different backgrounds. But then somebody at school organized a football tournament, a two-hand touch football tournament on the schoolyard. And the teams were organized according to race. So there was a team of all white dudes. There's a team of all black dudes. There's a team of Latino dudes. There's a team of Asian dudes. I don't remember who won the tournament, right? But, seeing folks at that young age sort of ingesting the tribal mindset that is kind of congenital to our experience here in America, right? Race, and, we can get into a debate about race as a social construct, which many would argue that it is. But that was like, wow, I got to play with the black dudes. I got to split up from my crew of guys for this tournament. And then I go to high school. And, in junior high, I hung out with a very diverse group of people. But then I go to the High School for Economics and Finance in Lower Manhattan in New York. It was a school that was designed to get students interested in pursuing careers on Wall Street. And look at me and the places I wound up working, Goldman and JPMorgan, Fidelity. I followed that trail. But another thing that, really grabbed me at that age is that everybody hung out with their own kind in that school, man. You had the Latino brothers from uptown, they stuck with each other. You had the brothers from Harlem, they stuck with each other. The brothers from Brooklyn, Brooklyn, we rolled strong in that school. So the Brooklyn dudes, we hung with each other, right? And, it was very eye-opening at that age to see people starting to group themselves according to race and, that tribal mindset. And as I got older, my understanding became more and more sophisticated around the issue. 1992, the movie Malcolm X comes out. My mom takes me, I'm in sixth grade at the time. My mom takes myself and my little brother to see Malcolm X, and that was raw. And I saw that movie. And at that same age, Will, I was a voracious reader from young, and so I read Days of Grace by Arthur Ashe, Arthur Ashe's memoir. He was the first Black man to win major tennis tournaments, right? And reading about his experiences as a child playing tennis in the South in the 1950s, and reading about him having to endure epithets at that young age, and him having to endure being gawked at, and going into this sport that it still is a country club sport, but he had to get comfortable being uncomfortable, reading these experiences. And then I get a little bit older and I'm in financial services, and then I start to say to myself, wow, this wealth thing is really unbalanced and it's leading to different outcomes for people. And then I start to understand, our system, right? We in this country, we gave a certain leg up to white people that, we did not give to Black people. And let's just take slavery out of the equation for a second here. The GI Bill, which created pathways to middle class membership for white people, we were blocked from that. The Homestead Act, which helped white people, the government went out of their way to help white people. We were blocked from these opportunities. The government actually went out of its way to create a system where we could not get a mortgage to buy homes. And whether or not you were successful, you were confined to living in a government-created ghetto, a red line zone. And then I started to learn about, how our tax system functions in this country, and how those rich suburbs have higher tax bases, and those higher tax bases have better schools, and those better schools have more resources, and they lead to better outcomes for those children. They're better prepared for our society. And then I think about, wait a second, a lot of us are forced into substandard schools, and we're in low tax base areas. And then you get to see racial segregation along those lines as well. I live in the state of New Jersey, Will. It's the most racially segregated place I've ever lived in my life. And, it was by design. Black people in this state are confined to places like Newark, Patterson, Trenton, New Jersey, very poor places, man. And these children who are born into these places, they don't even have a chance. So, but, thinking about, for me, it was an evolution, right? An unfolding. And, now I'm at this perspective, and I think about, I'm in my mid 40s now, and I think about something that James Baldwin said. He was about 65 when he said this. He said that he was talking to somebody, and he said, I'm 65 years old, and you keep telling me to wait. Well, I'm not going to live another 65 years, right? He was very raw about, his perspective and the fierce urgency of now, because people's lives are not just, doorsteps on the way to history. Your life matters, your experience, it matters. And, that race consciousness that began so innocently with learning about Martin Luther King, it led me down this path, where I've been fortunate to do racial equity work within the banking system. And then it led me towards this path of writing this book, Company Men, a Wellness Guide for Black Men in Corporate America.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that journey with us.
Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support, and see you next time.